Welcome back, everybody. Finally talking about Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for Nintendo Switch. One of my favorite games of the year, and a game that I just put 130 hours in. Overall, I rate it an 8 out of 10, but it is not a game that I would recommend for everybody. So in these first few minutes, I will go over that very briefly, talk about who the game is for, who it might appeal to, and who should maybe be dissuaded from playing it. And I will also get into whether I thought this was worth purchasing over playing it on the Wii U. If you are somebody who loves adventuring, loves exploring grand worlds, think of Morrowind, think of MMORPGs, then you are going to have a good time with this game because there is an amazing planet for you to explore here. Lots of different environments, various alien life forms, and a lot to see and do. If you are somebody who plays JRPGs for the story, then be warned. This story will take you a long time to complete. Somewhere between 60 and 120 hours, and I know that that's a huge variance, but that is because you might get a little engrossed in some of the side quests. You might want to complete a little bit more rather than plowing on to the next chapter. Or your level might be too low, so you'll be forced to do some other things in between. And let's just say it takes you 100 hours. In that 100 hours of playtime, you'll probably only experience 10 hours of story. And is it good enough to play 100 hours of a game that is maybe not for you just for those 10 hours of story? No. The story here is fine. It's nothing incredible, but I will detail it more later. Still, like I said, I really want to advertise this game to the people who love exploration in their video games and going across these grand worlds. I have some notes from my first 30 hours here, and this will give you a little bit of an idea of how much of a mixed bag this was. And I felt compelled to do this because the game felt like a drag at times. I was just about to start Chapter 6. I had all available characters unlocked. I was around level 30. So those of you who have played before, that gives you an idea of what I was experiencing. And for everyone who hasn't played, I had most of the front half of the world explored. So from where you begin, where your hub is, I'd radiated out and covered about half of the map or more. Unfortunately, because the storytelling, because the repetitive cutscenes, I checked my phone while playing this game more times than I could count. So that is a huge knock against it. The cutscenes and the storytelling are not that engrossing. Now, am I happy with my purchase? And am I glad that I played this version over the Wii U version? Well, I haven't actually played the Wii U version, so I can't do the most accurate comparison, but I am happy with this. This includes new characters and new side quests for them. That is my favorite part about this game. The difference between the graphics and how a lot of the characters' faces especially were polished and look better, that's fine. I suppose I appreciate having that. But the world itself, from what I've seen on the Wii U clips, it looks incredible there too. So again, if you're somebody who maybe just wants to have the main essence of exploration, you're fine on the Wii U. Lastly, there is a bonus chapter added in this game. I actually thought the story reached a better conclusion before the bonus chapter. What they added here, I was really not happy with. But I will get into that later. For now, I can get into the bulk of the review, and starting with just a brief explanation of the story before getting into things like the combat and more exploration mechanics. It begins with a cutscene taking in a fight above planet Earth. You've got a couple of different alien races or species combating each other. There's all kinds of creepy aliens, there's terrifying weapons and explosions, and Earth, unfortunately, succumbs to their firepower and is destroyed. But before Earth is destroyed, humanity manages to send out some lifeboats, and you follow the story of one crew that crash lands on the planet Mira. And this is very much a story of human resiliency, humanity trying to rebuild and prosper. And as you are exploring this planet, you'll come into contact with other alien species, most of which you cannot communicate with, and those are the wildlife native to the planet. And you'll also encounter a lot of aliens who you can talk to, and that is a lot of fun in this game. Kind of has this Star Wars feeling where you're meeting all these different alien races, and you get to learn their quirks and some of their lifestyle habits. So now for the combat. If you played Xenoblade Chronicles 1, then this was going to feel very familiar to you. It's that, but upgraded and enhanced, and I really enjoyed the combat in this game. I will try to only detail things as much as I need to here, because to get into every single intricacy of the combat and the associated mechanics would take way too long. We'll start with the class system, because that is what differentiates this title from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 the most. So you've got a class tree, and in the class tree are these different branches. They kind of range from something like an assaulter to something that uses what almost feel like psychokinetic powers. Each class has unique weapon types associated with it, one melee and one ranged. So if I like playing long ranged, and I do, I'm going to go for the class that has the sniper rifle. That is unique to this one class called Partisan Eagle. Also, my melee weapon is a polearm. The cool thing about this game is if you master that final class, just by playing it a lot and getting a lot of points for it, you can then equip the weapons in other classes. Now, why is this important? Because the abilities that you use in combat, they are tied to the weapons. So I could pick an assaulter after I've already mastered the Partisan Eagle, and then I'll be able to equip the sniper rifle if I'm not a fan of the assault rifle, and I still have my long-ranged abilities. Also, there are skills, and these are things like passives, or they can also, they're usually passives. So skills are tied in with the unique classes. The same thing, the more you play a class, the more points you put into it, the more skills you unlock. So you've got passives, you've got weapons, and you've got all these different abilities. When you are engaged in combat itself, you'll see this screen. You can have up to 3 different party members joining you at a time, and all of the party members here have been assigned a different class that you cannot change. You have all of the customization available to you that you want, but you cannot change that for your party members. You'll see at the bottom of the screen here, all of my abilities are laid out, and each of them has an associated cooldown to go with it. Some of the abilities require points to use, not just a cooldown, and those points are accumulated usually by doing auto attacks in battle. There's other ways to gain them. That's where the skills might help you out. And there are so many other things I could talk about. Overdrive is one of the main mechanics that kind of powers you up in battle. Things become so cracked and so insane if you can find out ways to abuse the overdrive and get it repeating. In short, it makes you do a lot more damage and it reduces your cooldowns. So learning how to abuse that, it becomes a lot of fun. But I will admit it seems a little overwhelming at first because there's this legend that appears on screen and you're managing your timer, you're watching that running down. As you're glancing towards the legend, you're like, oh wait, there's color combinations for what attacks I use. Plus you're looking at the enemies and seeing what they're up to. Plus your party is talking to you in battle. That's another really cool thing about this game. So your party will occasionally shout out different sentences, different things that they're doing. And you can see that each one has a different color. If you press an ability that matches that color, I forget exactly what happens. There's so many different buffs going on, and in the heat of doing this review, I can't remember them all. Plus, there's this mechanic called a soul voice, and randomly throughout the battle, you'll see a button prompt appear on your screen, and if you can time that and press it at the right time, your whole party also gets a buff. So it's very engaging, and I think that's the main reason why I was constantly looking forward to battling. Plus, there's the drops that you get from killing enemies. There's just a lot going on here. Let's quickly review the games that I've reviewed on the channel, the big RPGs. There was Cyberpunk 2077, there was Tales of Arise, and early in the year, there was Xenoblade Chronicles #1. This game has the best exploration out of all of them. Like I said, Morrowind, because the world is huge. MMORPGs, the same thing. As you interact with this massive world, you will have these different side quests that take you to various corners of it. First of all, I want to talk about the scale, because this place is huge. Mira is a fantastic planet, and you are just a small little speck on it. Most of the creatures that you see are going to dwarf the humans. You're going to be running under a lot of the legs of these things that look like dinosaurs. And what I appreciate about the creatures in this game is that they're not all hostile. In fact, I think most of them are neutral. So you have this kind of Jurassic Park feeling as you're going through these wilds and there's these dinosaur-type creatures all around you. There's so many unique landmarks that you're going to come across, waterfalls, gorges. There are the different regions and their different environments and ecosystems. A jungle, a desert, you get the idea. Some of them are far more fantastic and imaginative. And the imagination. So let's just talk about the jungle for an example. Huge sprawling vines and leaves that you can jump on and walk on. You might be walking into the hollow of a tree and then dropping down something like 80 feet, landing in a pool of water. And there are all kinds of different creatures around there too that you didn't see on the surface. You might want to explore now that little hollow a little bit further, and all of a sudden you come into a cave that's covered in crystals. So everywhere you go in this planet, basically every 20 seconds, you're going to want to stop, stand still, spin your camera around, and just take a look at everything that the developers put in here. When it comes to the exploration and the mapping, there are yet more gameplay mechanics here. There are 3 map screens. Number 1, your basic map screen, okay? Number 2 has this hexagonal grid. And each of these hexagons actually represents the side quests or the minor objectives that are available on that part of the map. So if you needed more reason to run around and to explore, check this page often. You'll have one of 3 things. Like I said, there are side quests that might terminate at that point in the map. There are these little bits of ruins and debris from the ship that you can go up to and explore. You just walk up to it, you hold A, and it's like, okay, we studied it, we researched it. That's actually really worthwhile because those researched things will give you money or might give you some items as well. And then lastly, there are enemies with bounties. So you'll go and get those quests from a quest hub, go and find those bounty enemies somewhere on the map, and once you slay them, that hexagon will be filled in. The 3rd map screen is like a little strategy game. So this ties into one of the purposes of exploring the planet in the story. You are out setting these data probes, and you could think of each of these as these little satellite hubs. Plant these data probes, scatter them all throughout the planet, and they will send you information on the planet back to the main intelligence. When you are looking at this screen, you'll see that there's different data probe types. There are these little links that are between them. And you will plant things that will bring in some currency. One of the currency is just your regular spending. Another currency is Muranium. And this is used just for shopping for some other things and also upgrading your mechs. I'm sure you saw the cover of the game. I'm not spoiling anything here. Yes, there are mechs in the game. Did there need to be different currency types? Not necessarily, but they make it all work. Lots going on here. If you need any advice for how to use these things and how to optimize your earnings by planting the probes, I can just imagine a lot of you hearing this. This is just gibberish and mumbo jumbo. But if you end up playing the game, if you need any help with this in particular, without even looking up any guides, I was really good at finding ways to maximize my income. So yeah, think of it this way. The 3rd screen and planting your data probes, this brings in passive income. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Now we can talk about the skells a little bit, those mechs. Skell is short for something, basically like, mechanized skeleton for human type of thing. One of the reasons why the world is so big is because these things are about 10 times the size of you, and they're much faster, and they get around the planet like nothing. These things, they come about somewhere between hours 30 and 35. These things will really fast track your exploration. But I will say, going back to what I said earlier at the beginning of the review, how it took me 30 hours and I was at the end of chapter 5 and yada yada. One of the reasons why it maybe took me so long to unlock these things is because I was just enjoying myself. I had so much fun running around the planet on foot. There's some jankiness, like your characters jump around like crazy. It's like, okay, maybe gravity is a little different on the planet, but it doesn't really match the running speed. Whatever, there's some things you're just gonna have to suspend your disbelief and accept them for how they are. But the point is, exploring on foot was a lot more manageable than I expected it to be. And I was able to sometimes get on some cliffs that maybe you wouldn't think were accessible and work my way up to a lot of places that I think, oh, this was probably only intended to be accessed when I had a skell. I really enjoyed it. The quests come in 4 different types. There are the Blade missions. That's your organization. It abbreviates down to Blade. These are things where you can find, for example, the bounties for slaying different creatures around the planet. There are your basic missions. These are the green ones. You can find them as you talk to people in the overworld. They'll have something, oh, there's going to be a marker on the map. So you just go to where that marker is and you can get the mission that way. Affinity missions, the orange ones. These are ways to connect with your party members a little bit more. Little side stories so you can find out more about them. And finally, the story missions, my least favorite and the ones that really bogged the game down. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I preferred the stories told in the side quests compared to the one that was told in the main story. The side quests were full of all the different alien races, learning about their cultures, seeing how they could integrate and mix with the humans that were in New LA. And the stories told there painted a good picture of what would happen if a colony like this were to suddenly sprout on an alien planet. What would people be most concerned with? You're looking for water in one quest chain. You're trying to develop a purification plant. And then what happens to that purification plant when you start enlisting the help of another alien species? You get a glimpse into the hostilities that exist between rival clans of alien species, and so much more. The time and effort that went into the world building, and that's only available if you engage with these side quests, is something that's worth commending. Now for the last gameplay mechanics to talk about, your gear and equipment, customizing it, crafting new stuff, and the company levels for leveling things up. So you've got your gear that you can wear, both cosmetically and to power you up. Unfortunately, the shop does not actually tell you what you've already purchased and what's in your inventory. And the reason why this is a big problem is because whatever it's listed as in the shop is not what it's listed as in the cosmetics menu. So if you want to dress your character up, which I really enjoyed doing, I spent many hours in these menus, you're just kind of looking at where there's gaps in your items, in your inventory, and then you're going back to the store and you're thinking, okay, I think what I'm missing is this piece. And there's so many different pieces there. So it gets a little confusing, it's a little frustrating. Thankfully, money was easy to come by, at least for me. Customizing the gear and crafting your own. So the gear comes in different rarity levels, again with that kind of MMO feel. Blue, some other color, purple and orange. And each level of rarity adds one more passive effect to the gear. When you have this other screen and there's these different companies here, these weapons manufacturers, you can donate to them resources and level them up. Leveling them up will increase the rarity for what they sell in the shop. Thing is, you don't really need to do this, at least I didn't. I was getting a lot of good drops in the wild as well. So every now and then I had to buy something to fill something out in my inventory, but I didn't really have to spend too much money in the shops other than for customizing my look. Finally, crafting weapons. This really feels tacked on, or maybe it's something that was more important for people playing online with other people. When I was level 40, for example, I was just getting the components required to craft level 20 weapons, so I never even bothered. I think a lot of the components come easier from doing quests online. Somebody else can confirm that, whatever. I'm just saying it was there. I didn't really engage with it. And there were times in the beginning of the game where I felt like they were dangling this carrot in front of you. It's like, hey, you can craft your own equipment, but I wasn't actually able to really engage with it. All right. Now we can move on finally to story, characters, writing, and the bonus chapter. So the story, I will elaborate on that a little bit more. You do feel some stakes from humanity both being on the run from these alien races, the hostile ones, and also from having to start from scratch. And there's a third reason why it feels like, ooh, it's a little tense. There's a little pressure on our shoulders. You have a sort of countdown and a reason for finding the different scattered pieces of the life hold as quickly as you need to. I'm not going to go into more detail with that because there's so little story here to work with. I will let you discover it on your own. The characters and the writing. First of all, let me talk about the things that I do like. So the cast of characters is very vast, and you're going to be interacting with all these different alien characters as well. Most of them are only going to be for side missions, but it's still really cool seeing them on Planet Mira, seeing them come into New LA. Those are the good characters. Also, your party members, most of them fundamentally have nothing wrong with them. But it's in the writing and how they're utilized that I start to take a lot of issue with. For example, Lynn, the child prodigy. She's only 13 years old, but she's the best engineer. And did you know that she's also the best cook? Oh, and did you also know that she's good in combat out in the field? Oh, and did you also know that she's wise beyond her years? So when a lot of characters are having problems in these cutscenes, they'll defer to Lynn and find out what her opinion is on something. They'll count on her to talk somebody out of a bad thing that they're going through. Every story mission unfolds as follows. There's a mission briefing. There's a little bit of dialogue exchange as you hear what you're going to be doing on the next mission. And there's always a joke, a gag where Lynn's like, oh yeah, we're making such and such tonight, curry. Hey Tatsu, can you help me out? Do you mind jumping into the pot? And Tatsu's like, whoa, Lynn, no, don't cook me. whatever the whatever the Nopon voice is. And I'm like losing my mind as I'm recollecting this stuff. It's so overdone. All of the gags are. And I get that the game needs a little bit of levity here and there, but they needed to be way more creative.
Listen, Elma, when you're ready to have a real man serve under you, call me, okay?
That's enough! I was going to let you two mouth breathers off this time, but talking trash about my team and the Colonel? No way.
Oh, baby! A private lesson?
Oh, this ought to be good. Let's go!
Freeze, maggots!
Commander Phantom!
This isn't... I mean, they started it.
Shut your hole! I saw the whole thing, including where you picked a fight that was about to get your teeth kicked in. Now get your skinny little asses back to the barracks. Your tongues have an appointment with some toilet seats.
The bonus chapter. No spoilers, but I was really looking forward to this because apparently it was going to tie Xenoblade Chronicles X, which can be played as a standalone, to the rest of the trilogy a little bit more. Now, up until the bonus chapter, and with the base game, with the Wii U story content, I was pretty satisfied. I was able to use my imagination, or use some of the clues that were presented, and find ways to link these two games together. I wasn't sure with my theory, but I was still able to come up with some theory nonetheless. And then the bonus chapter comes along, and it just smacks you over the head, really bluntly drops an explanation for how the games tie together. And I go, that is so cheap, that is so unnecessary, that did not need to be written. A lot of the writing here for the bonus chapter really irks me. The new character they give you, he's fine. I like having him in my party. He's really powerful. Again, kind of like Lynn, fundamentally, he's a good character. But there's some running gag that comes up over and over that was clearly mistranslated or does not work localized into English. I'm sure it's fine in Japanese. And it's something like the following. The character asks you how you're doing. You're supposed to reply with, terrible, how about you? He then says, terrific, which is better than what you can say, or something along those lines. What I just said makes more sense than what's actually in the game. And also, for some reason, at this point in the bonus chapter, now you've actually got characters that are laughing. Like the voice actors are there and they're doing ha 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 into the microphones. And you're supposed to laugh along with the game because they told you it was funny. So the quality of the writing for this bonus chapter, everything from the plot to the character interactions and the dialogue, is just like 5 levels below the base game, which already wasn't that strong. Anything else that I want to wrap up as I conclude with the writing and the voice acting and all of that? Oh, one more thing. So I actually like how your customizable player character is not the focus of the story. Elma is in very many ways the protagonist, and it's interesting assisting her, and it's interesting just following someone else along for a change. It doesn't always need to be you as the protagonist. Come chapter 13, again, the extra content for Definitive Edition, now you're being thrust into the spotlight. There's some ways where I get it, because as you play the game and as you advance, you are talked about like this, a heroic figure. You're so skilled, you're such a good blade, everybody wants you to be on their team. So it did make some sense to give your character more spotlight, but it was just really awkward, because your character doesn't have any voice acting. You have some voice lines for combat, but you have no voice acting. And so these people in the bonus chapter, they're talking you up and they're praising you and they're trying to thrust you in the spotlight. And the camera just looks at you and you're just like this. It was really bad. It was really weak. You went 12 chapters where Elma was the protagonist and other characters stepped up. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're the protagonist, in case you didn't feel good enough about yourself. Again, terrible writing. All right, the music. The music is fantastic. And not as good as the exploration. Not as good as Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but very good. From what I understand, music is a little bit of a controversial point here, a little polarizing. Some people either really like it, and some people despise it. I don't know how you can despise it, certainly not overall. The main town themes of New LA, the daytime version, is great. It might still take some time to grow on you, but there's a point where the music has a drop in it. The character builds up with 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the guitars and the drums come in, and that's incredible. The nighttime theme, that took a little longer to grow on me. I don't really like that kind of 80s to 90s kind of urban influence in the music. But again, when there's a drop in the song and it goes back to the guitars, it focuses on the funk, it brings in more of a groove. That is really pleasant and enjoyable to listen to. So even the songs that did not start off so strong, they grew on me and I grew to really like them. And the rest of the songs, as you're exploring, the music that fills in the different environments, fairly good overall. And now we are at the end of my notes. So you can see here, I didn't really have much other than just kind of the different topics that I wanted to go through. Nothing to say after the music. I'm sure I talked for way too long. This is probably going to be my longest review of the year. For that, I am sorry. But after spending 130 hours on this game, this being the game that I sunk the most time into this year, there was just so much to talk about. I will reiterate, in case some of you just skipped to the end of the video. This game is worth playing if you are a fan of exploration, if you want to see all that Mira has to offer, if you want to see the amazing creatures, big and small, vicious and neutral. There's so much fun to be had with those sorts of gameplay elements. If you're looking for a really good, engrossing JRPG story, you're not going to get it here. Yes, the sci-fi is well done. A lot of the plot ideas are pretty interesting and well thought out, but it's the execution of the story and it's the quality of the writing where it really suffers. Still, high recommendation for most gamers, 8 out of 10 from me. And again, had it cleaned up some of those elements, it could have been scored a little bit higher. But also, had the exploration not been as rewarding, were there not those little data probes and those little things that you could scavenge and things of that nature, different bounties to get, were there not so many party members with skills and abilities that you could level up? And if you didn't have the customization of those classes, this game would not be as good as I think it is. So, there you go. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for Nintendo Switch. Certainly worth playing. If you don't want to shell out the big bucks, if you could play the Wii U version instead, go ahead with that as well. And next up, what's coming next year? I will be planning on playing 2 and Torna, because I am officially a big fan of the Xenoblade Chronicles series, and I want to see it through all the way to the end, and I want to experience everything that it has to offer. So that's it. Thank you everybody for watching. If you've already played the game, I'd be really interested in talking to you about what your favorite parts were, what you did not enjoy about the game. And if you have not played it, first of all, thank you for watching so much of the video. Let me know what you think. That's it. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for letting me ramble. I appreciate it. I feel better at getting that off my chest.